Welcome to Real Estate Agent Superstars. From groundbreaking strategies to personal stories of triumph, we're here to uncover the secrets behind the success of the real estate industry's elite. And now, here is your host, R.J. Baxter.
Welcome to the show, Ryan. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So for the listeners to the show, we wanted to have Ryan on because he's got a really unique perspective on the business based on where he's coming from with how he's wired. And we're going to get into that here in a little bit. But first, I wanted to talk about Ryan's journey in the business. He's been in the business since 2013. He's been a top agent in the metro area for the last 5 years and really successful before that as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Ryan, how you got involved in the business and what your journey's been like.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. This is great to be able to come on. I was a corporate marketing guy, an advertising individual before I got into this business, and went through a couple ups and downs. Had lost jobs after 9/11, kind of built back a career, then got laid off after 2008 when everything kind of collapsed in that time. So, I was with a brand new baby, new wife, and started working for a builder in 2009 to just try to pay some bills, right? Just to try to pay some bills. And I was, an inside sales guy, wasn't even out in the, the on-site places. And after a few years of really absorbing what real estate and the business was from a builder's perspective, at least from that inside sales perspective, it was pretty clear to me that I was going to be able to provide a service of excellence that was well above what the average realtor or real estate agent was providing at the time. And that's when I decided to make the jump and got, through school in 2012, got my license in early 2013 and activated right away and just, got to work. Started on a small team, right? Because I didn't know what I was doing. Started on a small team and I was getting fed Boomtown leads, if you ever remember those, and went through the pain of, dialing 200 phone calls a day, trying to generate business. And after a very short amount of time, realized that, my brain didn't work that way and my attention didn't work that way. And it was really difficult to stay on task, to keep moving through just endless phone numbers and hang-ups and all that comes with internet-based, phone calling leads. So left the team, went out on my own and kind of started discovering what really worked for me through just trial and error. And it turns out doing, community-based events is my jam. It really focuses, my attention. It's something that I love to do and I like to do often, which is one of my mottos. And that kind of angle of doing local and community-based events for a specific community really fulfilled my heart, kept me on task, and it was really good for how my ADHD brain works. It took a long time to kind of figure that out because I kept being told by mentors and coaches along the way that you got to make the phone calls. You've got to go, fill your database every day with so many people. You've got to door knock this many doors. You got to hold this many open houses, and it just wasn't something that it was a path of resistance. Right. And I woke up and every day and I hated the thought that I had to do things like that. I door knocked a few times, hated it, like immediately was not a fan, right? Got yelled at a few times. I was completely nervous, upon every door. It was a horrible
Right.
feeling. I just didn't want to live that way, right? So it kind of kept coming back to where, in around 2015, my wife and partner and I sat down and we're like, what really is going to be something that we could live by that will help drive, this business where we can be successful in? And it was very simply doing what I love and doing it often, whether that was going with my Jeep up off-roading and, Jeeping with, friends and clubs, whether it was skiing and snowboarding with different groups and people up in the mountains and hiking, in different clubs, or whether it was hosting parties and events at our house. We doubled down on just doing the things that we love to do. And we just did them as much as we could. And we shared that. We posted it. We put it out to the world to see. And by gosh, people responded to it and started coming to our events more and more. And, and it made that a really robust style of business.
So I have a question around that. I love that motto of do what you love and do it often, because
Right.
I've had agents ask me recently, what do I do to generate business right now? It's a little bit slower. I don't know what to do. Should I buy leads? And I
Right.
think it goes back to doing what you love and focusing on that, because there's so many ways in our business to bring in the business. And if you try to
Well,
do something that doesn't fit with your personality, it
right.
makes it harder.
If you're fighting it, it's not going to be easy to do and you're going to struggle it, but you're also going to not want to do it. So, when it comes
Yeah.
to generating business, and we talk about this in our office and with our, newer agents that come on, and it's really, really being true to yourself. And that's hard for some agents to really grasp, because a lot of agents really don't know and haven't looked internally to themselves and what makes them happy and what do they really like to do. They've just been kind of going along with what people said or what they think you're supposed to be doing, and it's not really
Yeah.
making them fulfilled, and it's not making them do what wake up and be energized to do something. So really paring it down to that. But I think also when you remove some of those barriers of resistance, and you start doing what you love and you start attracting people because you're comfortable in your space, your mindset and what's happening in your brain can be focused in a much easier way than having to fight the focus.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's a great point. Um,
Well, yeah.
You mentioned how you started doing what you love and then you had events and people started coming to your events. What kind of events are you talking about?
It started off really small and it's grown to a lot. So specifically, it started off with just a simple neighborhood, not even neighborhood, a street level chili cook-off that we did in the fall. And we invited all of our neighbors that were 20 houses this way, 20 houses this way, put up, tables and invited everybody to cook their own chili. And we did, had music and games and a prize for the best chili from people voting. And it was a really organic way for people to come out, meet each other, really increase a sense of community, between each other. It had so many benefits when we did this the first few times. And actually, the first person to do it we weren't even the ones to do it. One of our neighbors started it and we went to it and we just kind of continued the tradition on. And it was great because you'd see your neighbors, you got to talk with them in a setting that was non-confrontational. You go to
Sure.
these networking events or these happy hours or these, events where people say, hey, come here, you're going to sign in, you're going to give us all of your information. Here's a little bit of a presentation. We're going to hammer you with some information. I hate that feeling of the timeshare pitch, right? No, nobody wants the
Right.
vacation to Orlando for the timeshare pitch. Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
And we saw that. So when we're at this chili cook-off, the conversations were so easy to have about what I do, about real estate, about my, angle and how I can help buyers and sellers. And It just was a very good start to it. Now we now have, major events in the community that we host, like the Easter egg hunt and a 4th of July parade. We got our turkey trot coming up next week on Thanksgiving. We bring reindeer into the community so the kids can meet Santa's reindeer, all sorts of things, from a large scale all the way down to like the really small things like, hey, we're going to get a few people over for a private chef's experience at our house. But all of these events, whether they're a few people or 500 people that come to them, are all angled in the same way, where it's for the community. It's to enhance the sense of community that we have and really just make where we live a better place to live, because if we got a cool place to live, people are going to want to live there. And if people want to live there, that's going to create some demand for the houses that we're going to sell there. If there's demand for the houses that we're going to sell there, we can get fewer days on market, higher purchase prices, an easier process for the sellers that are selling there.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's a question. Are you intentional in these events to let people know what you do, or is it more subtle?
Very subtle. No, because really it's very different, because in the sense that the event is truly for the community. And, I'm there having conversations about my business, but it's not meant to capture information. Like, we don't, and intentionally don't ask anybody for any information. So we don't ask for phone numbers. We don't ask for emails. We don't even ask for RSVPs on the event link. We just put it up and say, hey, everybody come. If you show up, you show up. If you don't, and it's a free event for the community. And that has proven to be kind of the secret sauce when it comes to making a very robust event, because people know that they can go there and they don't have to give away their private information, right? They see me there. I'm vocal. I'm vocal about what I do. So when I'm going to have a conversation with you, it's going to come up. I'm really good about being able to bring up what I do for work. So ultimately everybody finds out, but the goal of it is really, neighbors, have fun, have a good time, create some memories, create those lasting memories that the kids are going to grow up with, and the business will return, in favor. And it does.
Sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right.
Now, here's another question. Did you have to get approval of your neighborhood or somehow get a permit or something like that?
Yeah, of course. So we work closely with the HOA to get permission to use community property. We work with, I'm in Castle Rock, the town of Castle Rock, to get the correct permits that we need if we're going to shut a street down, or if we're going to have certain things. We get all of that stuff, as part of the events. So we're definitely above board to make sure that it's that way. So we're doing it by the book and not getting in trouble, and making sure everybody's liably safe and covered and whatnot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You keep saying we. Do you have a team? Who helps you with all this?
When I say we, I say that's my wife, because we're going to talk a little bit.
Gotcha.
I want to touch on some of my ADHD and scattered mentality, because
yes.
means my wife, who drives a lot of the ship. I have a transaction manager that works with me to help with contracts. But when it comes to like the events, when it comes to just lead generating, doing lead generation activities and kind of some of the mundane things where my brain kind of just flutters away, she helps keep on track. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And definitely I want to get into that. You've brought a unique perspective, I guess you could say, to the business in how you're wired. And
right.
You figure out how to actually feed into that in your business. Right. And I think the term you used is neurodivergent, which tell me what that means.
Yeah. So I've been, diagnosed ADHD my entire life since I was a young kid. Problems in schools, focusing, all that stuff. That kind of, diagnosis falls under the general term of neurodivergent. Now, it's such a broad spectrum of definitions that can fall under there. So, I don't know about all of the rest, but specifically when it comes to ADHD, I'm not a medical professional. I just know my own experiences, right?
Right.
But being ADHD, I have a really hard time focusing, right? I can focus very, very intently until it gets boring. And then as soon as something gets boring, I'm on to something else. And then there's a project half done. So when it comes to some of these events, I come up with this idea. Oh my gosh, I want to do a 4th of July bike parade that has this, this, and this in it. And I get really into it and I start planning it. And then all of a sudden it gets boring because, things aren't moving quickly enough for me. So that's where my wife comes in and picks up some of those pieces, because she's not ADHD. I guess the term would be neurotypical, but she handles all the nuts and bolts when it comes to putting it together. When I come up with this huge idea, and this even goes as far as just even my memory. If I can't see it, it's not real. So I'm going to hold this up. So I carry a paper calendar everywhere. Everybody has, their different ways. But if you see color coded, all kinds of different things, different colors mean different things. But if I don't have it in my calendar, it's not real. So somebody could send me an invite. I think we talked about this. If you sent me an invite for today, I never saw it on my phone. Like, I saw it when it came through, but it disappeared, and now it's gone forever. And this even goes for when we're meeting people. Like, I can meet somebody and have a great conversation and find their name out. Unless I write it down and put it into my calendar or put it onto something I'm going to visibly check, I forget that person. Like, they've never even existed, like, until I see them again. And then when I see them again, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally remember you. And then everything floods back. Well, in the world of real estate, from a producer's standpoint, that's a problem. Because you need to be able to remember who you're talking to. You're going to need to be able to have a trigger to be able to follow up with them and understand how to do that search. Now, most people would be told that you use a CRM, right? Sign up for a CRM, whatever your company has or whatever it is. You put your notes in, it'll send you an email or a text message trigger to remind you of it. Well, if you're like me, like, I've got probably 10,000 reminders that are not read from my CRM that constantly send out to me that I never check, because I see it. I'm doing something else. I'm on the phone. I'm out showing a house. I'm going on a listing presentation. I'm at my kid's soccer game or baseball game, and I flash it away, and then I forget about it completely. So coming into being, really cognizant of that deficiency when it comes to operating business, I've had to come up with ways to really remember this, to push forward and capitalize on the conversations that I have. And writing it down in something that I carry with me on me every day, all the time, is a key factor for that. Almost everything goes into this calendar. I should make a duplicate. I don't, but I should, because if I ever lost this, oh my gosh, it would be
in trouble.
Be crazy. It would be in trouble, right?
So, like, do you mean even at the level of when you meet someone, you put the notes in your calendar there?
Yeah, I'll write.
So that you
I'll write
remember
a note. I'll on the date that I have that I met them. I'll write their name and a quick little blurb about what we talked about. Right. And then, since I literally look at this calendar a dozen or more times a day, that now cements that person into my memory versus being fleeting and walking off. Where I have a couple other trackers that I use as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What other trackers do you use?
Yeah. So I'm kind of an old school guy that likes Excel. Oh, I could hear the people out there yelling at the screen, like, that's so old school, right? Yeah. Well, I have a appointment tracker, right? Which is
Mhm.
something that just from my corporate, training, I'm just very comfortable every day or every couple days looking at Excel. And it's one of my favorite, folders that I pull up. But I track my appointments, whether that is, and I could share a screen, I could show you what it looks like, but I don't know if I can.
I don't know if we can actually.
But if I
Might be
could,
able.
it's just, let me show. Let me
Yeah,
do
is there a
this.
share button there at the bottom for yours?
Okay, let's see. Well, needless to say, the tracker is, it's not letting me share it. So window, let me see.
That's all right. Just describe it because
Yep.
a lot of people might be listening.
Yeah, so here's kind of what it looks like. It's just a very simple tabulated uh, tracker that has the date of the appointment that I had, any price point that we spoke about, for a purchase or a sale, the name of the person, how that person came to me, whether it was a sign call, whether it was through one of our events, whether it came from a social post or some of our social advertisements, whether it's a past
Hmm.
client, or if it's a referral. We also do postcards. So if it also came from a postcard, I just mark how they came to me. And then I just simply assign, hey, what kind of level of hotness are they out of a scale of 1 to 10? If it's 5 or
Hmm.
below, they're not really a viable candidate. I'm not going to really spend effort to follow up with them because these are the guys that are like, oh, I'm just thinking about it in the next, 3 or 4 years type of deal. If
Right.
you're 7 or better, that means you're looking in the next 4 or 5 months. If you're 8 or better, that you're looking at the next couple months. If you're a 9, that means we're probably getting ready right now to start a home search to get your place listed. And once you get to a 10, that means you have signed and executed one of the agreements, whether it's a buyer's agency agreement or a listing agreement. So then I can go through and take what's in here and move it to my calendar or my tracker. That way I can keep track of where that is. And since I've got a habit of looking at that tracker, almost every day, it's another reinforcement of what that business is coming, what the pipeline's looking like, and how I can start moving people from the 5s and 6s up to 7s and 8s to 9s to 10s.
Hmm.
Does
Hmm.
that make sense?
Do you
Yeah.
keep them on there after they close on the house? Do you keep them on the tracker, or do they go into something else?
Nope, they just stay there, and I just keep, every year it's just a new tab for that year. Um,
Okay.
I
Oh, okay.
I like to keep them up because then I could go back and see. So if I see a past client, then I could go back through the years and see, oh, when did I first meet them? What did we first talk about? What are the notes? What are the price points and the initial things that we did? Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
What other strategies do you use to manage the ADHD and stay on track?
Well, so really, when it comes to the ADHD thing, um, it's reliance pretty heavily on my tools. The calendar and the trackers are really there. Also, I've become aware of when I'm moving into that kind of scattered mental thought process. Like if I work a lot from home, but I
Mhm.
found that there's times when I'm at home, all of a sudden, I'm finding every excuse to do something else, right? And I change venues. So then I go into an office. So the
Mm.
change of venue tends to give me a little bit of a change of pace and a focus change. So then I could refocus and get back to task at hand.
Cool.
If that,
I like
yeah.
that.
But
Yeah. I like this. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, some of the things about being ADHD, there's a stigma out there that people are scared of it, or they make it an excuse, right? Oh, well, I'm not really doing that good. I'm really ADHD. So, it's hard for me to get business going because I just can't get there. And they use it as excuse, and other people see it as a deficiency. But I look at being neurodivergent in that way as an ADHD person as it's a benefit. I think when you
Right.
have that kind of unique mindset that's a little bit different than other people's mindset, you have a much different attention to specific details. Because when you're coming up with your ideas or your ways of doing things, you're so hyper focused on it. You're thinking so quickly and fast through the process, you get a lot of that detail, and a lot of creativity comes out of that mental thought process. It's frustrating to people who can't keep up, and it's frustrating to somebody who's ADHD talking to somebody who's not, because you're going too fast. But the problem solving ability and the creativity comes into it, really, I think, is a big strength when it comes to selling real estate, because you can encapsulate so much information so quickly.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
one of my kids is ADHD, and I've learned that if it's harnessed the right way, it's an incredible gift, really.
it is. Yep.
If you feed into that and really focus on what the strengths are of being ADHD, you can really leverage that in your life and make it work for you.
You really can. I feel that if you have that kind of mentality, your plate of ability to take on tasks grows significantly. Now, in my experience, sometimes you can only go so deep on those tasks before you start losing focus, which is where either an assistant, a partner, a spouse that can help focus some of that, is important. But even if it's not, being able to have tools that can bring you back to where you need to be for each thought is important.
Well, I love the simplicity of the things you've put in place to stay on track. I mean,
Yeah.
you were joking about Excel, but Excel is awesome. And I mean,
It's, yeah.
if it's the tool that works for you, then it's better than anything,
Oh,
in my
it's
opinion.
well, and that's the thing. It's full on, up to each person, whatever tool is going to work best for them. And it's part about, feeds back into doing what you love and doing it often. I really enjoy and love Excel, from a tool management standpoint. So I use it all the time. The calendar is really important to me because I use it all the time, and I love being able to have it right in front of me because it helps me remember stuff. Right. So if you hate Excel and it's the worst thing and you don't get it, well, use a different tool. Maybe something else will work out there for you.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it was too many different things going on, that might be actually a distraction and make it harder for you to focus, I would think.
For me, it would be, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Right. So that's why keeping it really simple is a big win. Well, shoot, it's even if you look into how, one of the ways that I've focused my business is narrowing my focus down to a pinpoint neighborhood that I work in, right? Instead of broadcasting out through all of Denver metro area as the agent that can go anywhere, right? I did that in the very beginning. I was like, hey, I'm going to take this shotgun approach, and like, sure, I'll drive to Windsor, right? And I'll drive up to, Fort Lupton, and, sure, I'm down in
Pueblo
Franklin,
or whatever.
right? Let's go. Does it pay a commission? I'm going, right? That mentality in the very beginning, I was so scattered, and it was very tough because I was getting pulled in so many directions, and I didn't produce a lot because of that. I narrowed that focus down to a really micro neighborhood. And since I did that and really focused all my attention there, it made planning easier. It made remembering easier. It made executing easier. It made cost, projecting a lot easier. So everything became less work, and it ultimately produces more, significantly more. I was a $5 to $7 million a year producer, and back in 2014, 2015, and now I'm a $25 to $35 million producer, depending on the year. By just reducing that shotgun approach.
Yeah, I mean I think that's a key point.
Right.
Curious about the neighborhood focus. Do you do anything else besides the events?
No. Well, yes.
Like, do you do a mailer, or do you do a
Oh,
Facebook ad, or anything
I
like
do a postcard. Every month I do a postcard. The postcard reinforces the events that we're doing. So we had our reindeer event just this last Saturday. So we dropped a postcard that had a push towards the reindeer event for people to come to it. Like, we'll do the same for the holiday lights event that we're doing. We're going to do another one for the March Madness and Valentine's and the different events that we have throughout the year. So we do postcards.
Okay.
That
How else do you?
I said postcards we've
Go ahead.
only started in the last year and a half. Just, it was a cost prohibitive thing up until then. But I've got a great mentor, I've got a great partner.
Gotcha. Kind of bringing it back full circle to the neighborhood thing.
Yeah.
How else do you let people know about these events?
So there's a Facebook group that's for our neighborhood, so we post into that.
Okay.
If we'll have, my kids go drop flyers on doors that go around. We've had, on the bigger events, we've had the management company send an email out to everybody that about our events. So that's mainly awesome. And then I create a Facebook event page, and we push that link out to the Facebook group that's for our neighborhood, and it's a private group for our neighborhood. Right.
Okay. And the event page, though, it's not where they have to sign up. It's just more of an informative.
If somebody wants to RSVP that they're coming, they can, but it's not necessary. It's simply just an information page, landing page formulated as an event. So it shows up in our, the people's event page.
How do you plan for how many people are going to be there? Or have you just kind of learned over time what to expect?
Learned over time, right? So at first it was way over planning and buying, and then it was under buying, and then we've kind of got it figured out. Each neighborhood's going to be a little different. What we found is, at least in my neighborhood, you can take the number of RSVPs and multiply it by 4, and that's about what we'd see for attendance.
Okay.
And it's taken a few years to figure that out, because there's been a few times where we're like, oh my gosh, our turkey trot, which is a fairly small event, is only going to have 15 people there. Well, 75 show up, right? Right. So part of the event strategy is we don't have necessarily a lot of things that we have to buy that are going to be handed out to everybody. So we don't actually have to plan for that. For some of the events that we will have food at, we hire food trucks. And then the food trucks will take count based on how many tickets they sell, or, receipts they sell, right? So then we can kind of know.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
Pretty awesome. Well, do you have any parting tips for anyone starting off, especially people that might be struggling with focus or ADHD?
I feel your pain. I get it. It's tough to wrap your head around it, but really, I think embrace your ADHD and let the creativity that comes from it blossom. And if you've come up with an idea that you're in one of those moments where you're just brainstorming, go with it. Don't hesitate. Those ideas that come from your gut that you're excited about, those are the ones that are going to be the best. They're going to produce the best results. And I would say don't give up. It takes longer than you think to let some of these things, get a foothold. If you're going to start doing community events, you're not going to see a lot of return on that for a year. You need to be able to stay the course. And if you really love it, just always do it. Have the best time doing it as well, and meeting and conversing with your neighbors.
Do what you love and do it often, right?
Do what you love and do it often. That's right.
Yep. And then I love the one on your logo. What's that?
Yeah.
One behind
Wake
you
up and
say?
be awesome. Yep. So
yeah, wake up and be awesome.
Wake up and be awesome. You wake up every day. It's going to be an awesome day. Wake up and be awesome. Keep doing what you love and doing it all the time.
I love that. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Ryan. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me. This is great.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Real Estate Agent Superstars. If you're looking to dive deeper into the world of real estate and catch more episodes, head over to our website at www.realestateagentsuperstars.com. Curious about today's guest? Explore our show notes on the website for more details. Before you go, don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and follow us on social media for the latest podcast updates. Thanks for tuning in.